Hi, I'm Raj, and I'm here with Raj. We work on Spectrum Scale transparent cloud tiering, and today we're going to show you how to connect transparent cloud tiering to Amazon S3 services. Just real quickly, Amazon S3 can be connected to natively through Spectrum Scale using transparent cloud tiering. And what we're going to do is show you specifically how to configure Spectrum Scale so that it, with transparent cloud tiering, so you can see the detailed steps. Raj, thanks for helping today. What we have up here is a view of an Amazon S3 account. You're going to need, obviously, you're going to need an Amazon S3 account first before you can connect in. And you're going to need some information here. Raj, go ahead. Why don't you show them, the information they're going to need. You can see here he's clicking on his security credentials.
So one has to have these credentials where an administrator can provide an access ID and a secret key. So here it's access ID, and we can create or delete or make inactive of this. Once we click on create access ID, we will get the ID and password.
Okay, so you'll need to cut and paste the access key ID and the secret key for pasting into TCT, right?
Yes. We need those credentials to configure a cloud container pair on Amazon S3.
Great. Okay, thanks for showing us that.
Yeah.
So while Raj is navigating over into transparent cloud tiering, is there anything else you'd like to show us in Amazon here, GUI, before we go over to TCT, Raj?
Nothing else, Rob. I'm just showing the buckets page.
Okay, yeah, we'll get back here to the buckets page after we created a bucket from TCT. So while Raj is navigating over to TCT screen, let me just take a minute to talk about a couple things. One is, Amazon S3 has a load balancer, so in terms of connecting into Amazon S3, all you need to do is specify the region. You're not going to really need to worry, on site where you're at about load balancing. Just point it at S3 and they'll take care of the load balancing. We do recommend, though, that if you're connecting up to Amazon, that in general you're going to want a couple things. You're probably going to want for high availability, you're going to want more than one node, so you have no single point of failure. The other thing is you probably want to look at direct connect. From a practical standpoint, Amazon S3 over the internet probably is not going to get you the speeds, obviously, that you need, and you'll probably need a dedicated connection. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's go ahead, Raj, and let's take them through the steps that you need to do in order to configure transparent cloud tiering with Amazon S3. So go ahead and take them through the steps.
Yeah, here we have a two-node Spectrum Scale cluster, out of which one is configured. One node is configured for TCT server, and the other acts as TCT client.
And I see here you've created a node class already. You need to create a TCT node class first. So that's the first step.
Yeah. So here it is our TCT server which has started.
Does that start automatically? You have to start that manually, right?
Yes, we have to start it manually.
Okay. So all that is kind of like the prerequisite for doing that. You need your cluster, you need to have it configured, you need to have TCT installed, and you need to have the node class created and the TCT service started. That's kind of the starting point for this video.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have listed out commands to configure Amazon S3. So first thing that we do is we create a cloud account. So we have many options.
Yeah, let's go through these options here. The first one here, I see that you've listed the node class, which we've already created, and then there's the account name. So Raj, what's this account name mean? Does this account name have to match anything out on the Amazon?
Nothing else. It's up to the user.
Okay, so it's just a name, and it can be any name you want, and it may be different than any names you have out on S3. It's just a name that you'll use with TCT to describe this account. And then here you do need cloud type S3. We have other cloud types we support. We're an open product, so you'll want to choose S3 when you're going out to Amazon S3. Now here is the username. The username was what field that you cut out of the web browser, Raj?
Yeah, it's access ID which I have shown previously.
Okay, so this is the access ID that you cut out of your Amazon web browser to paste here in username, right?
Yeah, and the access ID and the secret key I have pasted it in. I have placed it in this file S3 password.
Okay, so the deal is in order to keep from sending something over the wire here for security purposes, you've put it in a file, in a secure file. You can see it's there under root, and you put the key, pasted the key in that file. And that's the only thing in the file, no spaces, nothing else, just the key, right?
Just the key.
And then you pass in the path to that file here, and so that's kind of where and again, what was the name of that field that you pasted into that file, the Amazon field?
Is the password field or is a field? Password file.
Yeah, no. What was the name on the Amazon S3 website? What was the name of the field that you pasted into that file?
It's a secret key.
It's the secret key. So if you're on the Amazon website, you paste the secret key into the PWD file.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. So that's kind of the steps to the account create. Are there any other options, Raj, that might be reasonable to use with account create that they might want to consider, or is this typically it? This is it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is kind of your first step here. Now you have a cloud account out there, but you're not ready to go. The next thing you need to do is create a connection to that account. So as you know, with Amazon, they have multiple regions, they have multiple ways to access an account, and you need to establish that connection to the account. And this is kind of what this cloud storage access point is that it provides that connection. Let me also add that while for some storage types, you may want multiple access points because Amazon has its own load balancer, all the availability is going to be there through that cloud storage access point. You don't need to create multiple cloud storage access points. For S3, there's no point in doing that typically because they do load balancing and they do failover, internally. So, anyways, just a single cloud storage access point. Raj, go ahead and take us through all these parameters.
Yeah. The first parameter, as you know, it's cloud node class, which is already created. And the second one is it's user defined name. I have defined it as S3 CSAP, which is cloud storage access point. And account name is the name of the account which we have created in the previous step. And URL goes as S3.
Great. Okay, and then
if in case one needs to configure region, they can do by providing icon region and region.
Okay, so you can see here in this. So typically, then, if you don't do a region, which region is used by Amazon or by TCT?
It's the default Northeast.
I'm sorry, which region is it?
Northeast.
It's the Northeast region in the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you might want to consider adding in the region. You know, typically you will want to use the region. In this example, we didn't, but so what options are available on the region? You know, it depends on the release, right? So every release, we're going to be adding in more regions. So, you know, rather than kind of go into the specifics of, you know, this, we want to make this video more generic, just, you know, you'll want to look to see what regions are supported. So how can they see what region options are available? Is it the documentation that is there, or is it programmatically available, Raj?
It's in the documentation.
Right. So you're going to need to consult the documentation on our the TCT, the Transparent Cloud Tiering feature under the Spectrum Scale Knowledge Center that will have this information. Okay, go ahead. Anything else you'd like to say on this?
Yeah. We have different options that we can configure to, like MPU part size, where a large file can be sent into is chunked into parts and pushed onto the cloud. And there is proxy IP and proxy port, where you can configure a proxy server and configure S3
right.
over it.
So, you know, again, if you know, and usually this is talking to your security folks. You know, if they have set up a proxy server for external traffic, you may need to set up this proxy IP and proxy port. Talk to your security experts, you know, your WAN folks. You know, if you have any questions about whether you should use proxy or not, what I would recommend is, you know, just trying it and seeing if it works. If this works without the proxy, then you're probably fine. But it's certainly an issue for some customers using this product where they're required to go through a proxy. The other thing is, let me talk about part size. I would recommend in general that you can leave this alone. You know, our default part size is 128 megabytes these days. And at 128 megabytes, we transfer data quite efficiently. And there's really typically very few reasons to do that with Amazon, to move that value up. In general, I don't imagine with Amazon that you would get any significant improvement by changing that number, and especially if you were to move that number down, you could slow things down. So in general, I would recommend just leaving the part size alone. All right, Raj, what's next? We've established an account. We have a path to that account, but we really can't do anything with it. We need a service to run on that account.
Yes. So TCT provides two types of services. One is tiering and one is sharing.
Right.
So here we are going to configure a tiering service.
Okay, so when you run your policies, to actually move data, you're going to refer to the cloud service, the TCT cloud service that you're using. So this this service here is actually starting to provide the the hook for you to do commands in TCT out to the cloud. So anyways, this cloud service is going to be important. So yeah, take me to the parameters here, Raj. What do you have?
Yeah, as part of this command, the node class is same, and cloud service, it's again a user-defined name that we provide here. And service type can be of two types. One is tiering and one is sharing. Where sharing, sharing is more about import and export of file, and tiering is more on migrations and recalls. And the account name that we have created in our first step, we give it here.
Right. So what we're showing here is we're going to have a tiering cloud service that allows you to move data from your TCT cluster out to this cloud account. And so this is kind of the start of actually being able to do real work. But there's one more significant step, right?
Yeah. The last step is creating a container on the cloud.
Right. We can't just have a cloud account. We need to have a container where we put this data, right? So this is kind of a way to create that container. And as a matter of fact, it's not really just a single container. For tiering, you're going to create a pair of containers. The first one container is your metadata, and the second one is your data. So most all your your cluster file system data and metadata all go in the data container, but there is TCT metadata that goes into the metadata folder, and it allows us, it's mainly used for like disaster recovery, that sort of thing is what the metadata container is for. But again, I mean, I know this is a little confusing. The data container is where we keep all the file system data and the file system metadata. The metadata container is for TCT, Transparent Cloud Tiering Service metadata. So if you look in there, you're not going to find your file system metadata. You're just going to find, a few files that for our metadata. All right. So with this, well, Raj, why don't you take us through the parameters for creating a container pair set? Go ahead. Hi, Raj, are you still there?
Yes.
So if you look at this container pair set, you can see here the first thing you need to do is specify the node class. And then you have your container pair set name. Again, this is any name you want to use. And then you have to specify the cloud service name. And then finally, now, this is the path of the file system that you want to connect to that container and put out in the cloud. So, you're going to be writing policies that allow you to move this data. And so, if you're writing a policy, it's going to be against typically a file set or a file system. So in this particular case, we scoped the path to a file system. There are actually quite a few options here. So if you look here on some of these, you can see instead of scoping to the file system, we could have scoped this to the file path or the file set path, and that would give us more granularity. As a matter of fact, I would say in general, if you can scope to the file set and provide more granularity, that might be wise, especially if you're scaling your file system larger. Okay. The other thing is, so Raj, in general, if we have just a container pair set name, in this particular case, TCT is creating the container, right?
Yes. So I can show you that.
What if we wanted to create, what if we wanted to, we didn't have permissions to create a container on Amazon, that we weren't given that permission? How would we set up this command if we had pre-created this container on the Amazon GUI, and now we just want to use an existing container?
Yeah, we can directly provide the name of the existing container.
Right, and in that case, we would need to provide the metadata container, because you'd have to create two containers. You have to create the metadata container and the data container. Do you want to show them the container we just created, by the way?
Yeah.
So there's the container name, TCT demo.
Yeah. Here is the container.
Okay, so you have both the data container, and then you can see we add the .meta tag for the metadata container. Is there anything in there yet? Do we create anything in those containers?
No, we have
nothing. Okay. So at this point, Raj, at this point, we know we can get out to the cloud. In our experience in working with people, this command here is kind of a key test. And sometimes there are problems in creating the container. What this typically means is either you have cut and paste your key wrong, or maybe there's a proxy server, some sort of network issue between TCT and Amazon that is keeping you from connecting in. So
yeah.
you're going to need to sort through those types of issues and get to the point where that container creation is successful. And again, it's typically network and security issues that are going to stand in the way of that happening. Okay, so what next, Raj?
I would like to migrate a file and show you how it goes.
Okay.
Here is the file system that is configured for S3, and I'm going to create a simple file. So here is a command which is used to migrate files. So cloud gateway files migrate test.txt. So the file is migrated, and we can check the status of the file using
Okay, that file is now non-resident. It was resident, in the file system. Now it's not there. And if we were to go out into that container, we would see that that container is no longer empty. It now has content in it, right?
Yes. So that's one object with data.
So Raj, the other day I had somebody that was struggling to create a container in a non-default region. How would they go about, like, let's say instead of US East they wanted a region in US West? How would they go about creating a container, or I mean creating a cloud account in a non-default region?
Yeah, first thing they need to provide their whatever they are aiming at. That should be provided at CSAP creation time, and the same should be provided while creating container pair too. So while creating container pair, we have an option called data region and meta region.
Okay. So you have to provide it in both.
Yeah, both data location and meta location.
Okay, so guys, remember when you're setting up your location and thinking about location, you can't just do it on the account create command. You've got to do it when you create your container pair set 2. You see what he's highlighting. Remember to do both of those things on both as you're going through this if you want to use a non-default region. Okay?
Yeah. That will fix the problem.
All right. Hey, Raj, thanks so much for your help today. Really appreciate it. And those of you watching this video, I wish you all the best in your work with this. Reach out to me. My name's Rob Basham, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you.